And for more, we welcome in our senior NFL writer, Will Brinson. Will, the rookie giving Mike Tomlin a decision to make here. Who do you see starting week 1 for the Steelers?
I mean, if I still had to guess, I would go with Mitchell Trubisky over Kenny Pickett. And not because Trubisky's been just demonstrably better or anything. And Pickett certainly is giving, Mike Tomlin a reason to at least, think about the decision. But for me, and maybe this is faulty logic, but I just always feel like if you go with the rookie in week 1, you have a hard time going away from him if he's supposed to be, especially a first-round pick, right? It's supposed to be your long-term answer. If you go with, you go with Kenny Pickett and he struggles, and then you have to yank him out and you start Trubisky, it really can, do a little bit to Kenny Pickett's confidence. It can do, it can mess with the confidence his teammates should have in him as the leader and the signal caller of that team. And then, on the flip side, if you go with Trubisky early, you can, if you want, and he's struggling, you can go to Kenny Pickett and not feel bad about it. I also think, for as little as for as average as the Patriots have been since Tom Brady left, and I realize that is the case. You still have to play Bill Belichick's defense in week 2 in Pittsburgh, and Belichick has just over the years just done a number on younger quarterbacks, and so from that perspective, maybe it would make sense to let's see what Trubisky can do for the first few weeks, and then go with Pickett. But if Mike Tomlin won't be scared to be aggressive here, I don't think.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin got a first-hand look at him in college. He played at Pitt as well. I know, Will, you're familiar with the company 3M. Well, that's what you got regarding the backup spot to Kirk Cousins in Minnesota. One of those M's is not Minneapolis. Instead, Mond, Mannion, and the new pickup, Mullins. Which signal caller has the best shot at QB2 for the Vikes? Who might that be, Will?
I'm terrified of a depth chart with 3 M's on it. Like, I'm going to screw that up at some point in probably the next 35 seconds. I think when you look at, obviously you have Kirk Cousins going to be your starter. I think sort of break it down in the sense of Kellen Mond remaining as a developmental guy. Like, he's going to stick around. I don't think he'll win the backup job. I think it's more likely it becomes a competition between Sean Mannion and Nick Mullins for that second spot. And remember, we've got a new regime in Minnesota now as well. So the investment in Kellen Mond, you see those numbers. I mean, just not great, right? I mean, 10 to 20. He's still very much a project. The investment in Mond wasn't made by the current front office or the current coaching staff, so I don't think they'll be afraid to move on from him if they don't think it's working out. He could, potentially be a practice squad guy just because of where he was drafted. And then if you're trading for Nick Mullins, it's probably saying that we don't think Sean Mannion is good enough to be the backup. And so if I were handicapping it, I would say that Nick Mullins is a pretty substantial favorite to win that backup job. And if you want to run the sort of, back into the familiarity with the system, right? Like, Nick Mullins has obviously worked with Kyle Shanahan before, and Kevin O'Connell was with Shanahan in Washington, and Sean McVay, of course. And so there should be some familiarity with that system, or at least a belief that he could run that system fairly well, or better than Mannion. And that's why I'd pick him to win.
All right, elsewhere, Will, the Bucs have been decimated with injuries, including their starting center, Ryan Jensen. The offensive line gave up 4 sacks last week against the Titans. They do have Tom Brady back under center, but what are their plans moving forward with this offensive line?
Your lovely accent made it sound for a second like the books have been decimated. And I was like, wait, are the books getting killed?
They probably have.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's probably more by hearing than anything else. But yes, the Bucs have been dealing with a ton of offensive line injuries. Look, I mean, this is a big deal. I mean, Ryan Jensen. Of course, they lost Ali Marpet to retirement this offseason. They're replacing a bunch of guys. Ryan Jensen is, one of the nastiest, most dominant, blockers out there. And I mean, it's just like not having him is going to be a big problem for Tom Brady. Mm-hmm. Tristan Wirfs was an all-pro out of the box when he was drafted. And if he's unable to go, early on, that's going to create a situation for Brady too. Chris Godwin banged up. I mean, I have a pretty substantial investment in the Buccaneers that I took on when Tom Brady retired for 40 days and the news broke that he was coming back before the books could adjust. And I've been feeling great about it and bragging about it. And now it's like, oh no, the Saints are looking a little more appealing as a possible division winner day by day just because of all these injuries piling up. the Bucs will still be good, and Tom Brady can manage through these situations. But you look at those first 2 years of him in Tampa Bay, he has had almost just immaculate protection and a very healthy offensive line. And now all of a sudden it's a ton of turnover, new coach. You got Todd Bowles, who's been there, but is a new head coach. And so there's a lot of, for a team that really brought most of the guys back from, over the last 2 years, there's suddenly a lot of turnover occurring, and offensive line is not where you want it happening with a guy 45 years old under center.
Yeah, well, those O-line issues might force Tom Brady to take another sabbatical from the team.
That's right. Yeah, maybe he will go do the Masked Singer.
That's right. All right, let's take a look at Thursday's slate in the NFL. Packers-Chiefs, it's been about Jordan Love. Green Bay under center this preseason. Aaron Rodgers hasn't stepped on the field. Patrick Mahomes has 3 drives, 3 touchdowns this preseason. Andy Reid undecided if he'll play. 49ers starters expected to get some run against the Texans, which is the other Thursday kickoff. So let's focus on Green Bay KC. It's been a mixed bag for Jordan Love, who will again get a shot. Who do you figure? Andy Reid, though, will err on the side of caution with regards to Mahomes. Pack favored by a point with a total here with regards to these two teams at 36. Will, what's the play?
Yeah, I think that you have to follow up and see exactly what they end up doing with Mahomes, because that's clearly the tricky part, right? Like that line moving down, it was 3 I think earlier or maybe yesterday, and it's down to 1. That's a little concerning. I think Thursday during the day, it's important to monitor what Andy Reid says, or like what we hear coming out of KC, because earlier today he said, we'll see, he's been practicing so long and all, and I haven't made up my mind on all that. He's been going and doing everything. There's Reid talking about Mahomes. It's like that's a nothing burger. It's a word salad for him not to answer the question. So I would want to back the Packers as short favorites, I think, just because you're going to have a bigger investment in those backups playing. But I'm a little concerned about Andy Reid's non-committal nature about Patrick Mahomes, because if he plays a whole half, then I would probably like the Chiefs a little bit more. I expect Jordan Love will see a ton of time in this one.
All right, well, the other game coming up Thursday night, 2 unbeaten teams this preseason, the Texans and 49ers going head-to-head, and something's got to give here. San Francisco are favored by 3.5 with the total set at 42. What's your play here, Will?
I'll take the favorite as well, and I think you want to get it in case it keeps moving up. I'm not sure how much we'll see at Trey Lance. But I do think that the 49ers will be invested in getting as many reps as they possibly can for a lot of their players, because you do have a new, an adjustment in terms of what they're doing on offense. And Kyle Shanahan ain't afraid to dial it up. And as you see, like the rookie Gray with that speedy touchdown, he's not afraid to let it loose regardless of who's in there under center. I think Lovie Smith is a little more conservative nature. We'll try to keep it as a low-scoring game, not be too aggressive. If he says Davis Mills is playing the whole game or something like that, that might change my approach. We're still, and I know that I'm not giving a great answer to either of these, but we're still kind of figuring out what teams. Week 3. Before they shortened the preseason, you knew you were going to see a ton of starters. It's like now some coaches are treating week 3 of the shortened preseason at the same way they would a week 4. And so that makes it a little bit trickier. So you really have to follow the news and of course, listen to the Pick 6 podcast, where we'll be previewing, I think, all of those games.
Of course. Absolutely. You've got to listen to the Pick 6 podcast. Will, thank you so much to look forward to. We appreciate the insight. Let's just show you one last look at Will's picks. He's taking the Packers over the Chiefs, and he likes the 49ers over the Texans.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.